My name is Maxwell Kane and I am a videographer in DP based out of Boise, Idaho. And one thing that I focus on every single video that I make is composition. Whether you're an aspiring DP or a director, understanding how composition works will make a huge difference in your work. It isn't just knowing the rule of thirds or leading lines, but learning how to use compositions to break rules and convey emotion will set you apart from so many other videographers. There are three big aspects when it comes to composition. The first is framing, and then we have colors, and finally we have movement. These are the three things that I personally think about when going into any of my shots. The first aspect is framing. This is just how your scene looks and how everything is organized in the frame. To me, this is the first piece of the puzzle because you have the option of putting your subject in the center to help show its importance, or you can put it in the side to show that it is just one small piece of the whole frame. I like to use my positioning of subjects to kind of automatically tell the viewer whether this thing is important and you should pay attention to it, or whether this thing is just not important at all. Utilizing the rule of thirds does help me frame things, but I personally don't like to have it on my monitor because I feel like sometimes it can confine me in a box and subconsciously frame my shot for me. Versus just looking at the scene and deciding, okay, this is where I want this to go and this is where I want this to go. And I'm not saying that I always break the rule of thirds and that I disagree with it. I'm just saying I try not to have it physically on my display so my brain doesn't automatically jump to that style. One of my favorite things that I like to do is load scenes with information and then just allow the viewer's eyes to move through it until they hit the point that I wanted them to hit. And this definitely comes with time and experience because you need to understand how to make what looks like a mess in the beginning something that actually moves your audience's eyes to the exact spot you wanted them to look at in the first place. So how do you do that? You practice, you look at your scene for more time, and then before you even start recording, look at your scene and consciously think about where your eyes move. Maybe even write a note on your hand or stick a note to your camera that just says, look at the frame. Because yes, eventually your brain will do this on autopilot, but in the beginning you need to teach it what to look for. Be conscious of your frames and focus on where your eyes move to. Once you start to understand framing, you can now focus more on color and how to use that to put emphasis on certain things. If you know me or you've seen my videos, you know that this is my shit. Yeah, and then I'm gonna cut out the shit part. Brothers, got hearing on. If you know me or you have seen my videos, you know that this is my shit. I cannot even begin to describe how much I love colors, whether it is color correcting, color grading, whatever it is. If it has to do with color, I'm in. This is just one of those things that you kind of learn throughout your filming career, and you may realize you are into visual effects or that you're more into set designing, but with time you'll figure out what your niche is in the whole videography process. But if you're like me and you're really into colors or even just want to use them to elevate your film, I'm going to give you some of my tips to help you understand how to use colors just a little bit better. Number one is understanding color theory. This is basically just how colors interact with each other and how you can use them to make people feel emotions. The color wheel is every videographer's best friend because it shows each color in relativity to other colors. One of the most common ways to use color is to use complementary color schemes. Teal and orange is definitely the most popular, but what I'm a big fan of is taking my scene and using a triadic color scheme. This is when you take three opposite colors from the color wheel, like blue, red, and yellow. Another is the monochromatic color scheme, and this is where your whole frame sits in the same group of colors. This video, for example, sits in the bluer tones, and blue tones usually represent more of a sad feeling or a sense of loneliness. And location choice really helped with this as well because since this is a snowy lake, it makes sense for it to be a colder scene. And by doing these things, it will help you utilize color to make key elements of your shot stand out, as well as making your shots more visually appealing. Another easy way to do this is to just take your white balance and shift it from cold to warm depending on how you want the scene to feel. But be careful with this because it can mess with skin tones and shift the color wrong, and it should be used as a creative decision for the film and not a definitive tactic to enhance your colors in every video. Comment down below if you would be interested in more of a fully dedicated video on color and how I personally use it to elevate my own videos. But back to the spiel. I will say that no matter what color scheme you go with, even if that is just using real life colors like what you would do for a corporate or a documentary video, is that you do it with intention. If you mess up your white balance, like I did in this shot, I could say it was planned, but in the actual scene, it doesn't make sense for this shot to be so warm. Luckily, you can get it back to almost perfect with color correction, but intention usually determines success or failure as far as conveying emotion through colors. Finally, we are on the last aspect of composition, which is movement. And the way I see it is there are three main types of movement: camera movement, subject movement, and camera and subject movement. There are infinite possibilities of how you can use and implement each and all of these into your videos, but I feel like the most underutilized choice is subject movement. This is setting your camera down, getting your frame set, and then allowing the movement inside of that frame to take over. Maybe it's just me, but I personally glance over this choice way too often. And I feel like this is actually harder for me to create engaging shots with zero camera movement, but when I do get a good static shot, I almost always fall in love with it. And I think this is because it feels like a portal into this frame where nothing outside of it matters. You can just sit with the image, really dissect it, and focus on each tiny detail. So when it comes to the movement, maybe next time think about how can you use movement in the scene rather than movement of the scene. But I really just wanted to give you guys some of the things that have helped me get better as a videographer when it comes to composition. And if you're wondering how to get more creative shots with your film, check out this video. I broke down a ton of ways to get more interesting shots. But thank you all for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next Monday.